Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, marriage counselor for many a philandering CEO, my brother Mike.
Yeah, and you know what? The number one thing, guy doesn't listen to me. I say, don't go to a Coldplay concert because it's filled with 50 and 60-year-old people cheating on their spouses.
I know. That's the only people who go to those.
Exactly. You
the
do
whole
a kiss cam, you're going to hit 2 or 3 CEOs
Yeah,
cheating on their spouses. Because you know why? White dudes in their late 50s and early 60s love Coldplay. We know this. And cheating on their wives.
And
we
cheating
know
on their
this.
wives. That's just,
Okay.
I saw a video once where somebody was like trying to explain that like a guy making between $0 and like $30,000 a year, he's never going to cheat. A guy making between 30 and 60, he's probably never going to cheat. A guy making 60 to 100, he might cheat. And then a guy making over 100, he's always going to cheat. It's like maybe that's it too. Maybe you have to make a lot of money in it as well.
It's like saying, "Hey, I really need to avoid divorced dads. You guys want to go to Hooters for lunch or?"
Yeah.
Like,
So fun times. It's fun to watch very wealthy people be brought low, Anyway, on this week's episode, we are going to dig into the Miami series a little bit, and somebody just texted me. Of course, I forgot to look for an Apple Podcast review. We're also going to discuss what the rest of this season should look like from the Royals during our Spotlight segment, give a little thoughts on how the second half might look if the Royals are or are not competing for a playoff spot. And then we are going to preview this week's games as we always do. A reminder to get out there and subscribe to our Royals Weekly Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com. Put out a bunch of extra content on the draft this last week. For those of you who want to see like a deep dive on all the picks that were taken after day one, day 2 picks, we did a bunch of that in our midweek episode. We also discussed some other elements in our midweek episode. Mike put out a great Mike's Drop episode this week, and then I dug a little bit into draft stuff just in some posts that I made. And so I wrote a very long post sort of analyzing the draft for that Substack. So make sure you're subscribing, royalsweekly.substack.com, a paid subscription, $5 a month, gets you all this extra content, all this conversation. Great way to sort of support us financially if you're interested in doing that and get a ton of extra stuff in return. Also, make sure you're out there rating and reviewing us. I checked. We do not have an Apple Podcast review to read for you this week. Would love to get some more of those. Would love to be reading your own reviews back to you because those are fun and funny sometimes for us, and that's great. And so make sure you're leaving those reviews. You're leaving comments on YouTube. You're giving us 5 stars and thumbs up everywhere you can. It really helps out a bunch. We really appreciate it. Mike, do you appreciate it?
So much appreciation. Love the reviews. They are witty often, and I love a good witty review. Sorry, I'm looking at my hair right now. It's real puffy.
We'll start the review of last week with roster news. There's actually quite a bit to talk about because we haven't had a normal episode in a couple of weeks. And then some interesting roster stuff has happened. We're going to start off with like the biggest one that sparked a lot of conversation online, probably because people just had nothing else to talk about because no CEOs had cheated on their spouses yet. And so, instead...
Yeah, none.
That had never happened before. Instead, we all had intense conversation about this trade. The Royals traded Cam Devaney to the Pittsburgh Pirates for old friend Adam Frazier, who is now a member of the Kansas City Royals. Mike, what are your thoughts on the Royals giving up Cam Devaney for Adam Frazier?
Fart noise. What
That's
baffling,
a technical baseball thing.
Baffling choice to make. And I'm sure my thought on this, I've talked to people online about it. You and I have talked about it. There has to be something else that we aren't seeing here. Like they were like, "Hey, Cam Devaney, maybe your sick aunt lives in the Pittsburgh area and has no one to look after her. Go over there and help your sick aunt." Something like that, because it makes no sense to give up that much control of Cam Devaney, a guy that you know nothing about at the major league level, for Adam Frazier, a guy you know a lot about at the major league level, who's only going to be here through the end of the year and is going to, give you next to nothing offensively, which we saw last year. This team knows who Adam Frazier is. The only other thing that I posited, and I can't remember I think I mentioned this in the midweek episode, was this is a move to free up a 40-man roster spot for future dealings later on. That's the only thing I can think of.
That ain't it. Because it makes no sense, because if they wanted to do that, they could just cut Cam Devaney from the 40-man roster if they really wanted to. Like, that makes no sense. And so,
but you're at least
I mean,
getting something back through the end of the year. You know?
I mean, when the time
hey,
comes,
we know he can play
when the
outfield
time
and stuff
comes.
like that. We can let Adam Frazier's going to be gone, and we're going to bring whoever needs to be put on the 40-man up to the 40-man.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
maybe somebody you trade for is likely who it's for.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I don't understand this practice of trying to create a narrative where a bad trade makes sense, right? Like, I get that it's not a consequential trade. Like, I'm totally on board with the notion that it will not mean anything, probably. Like, 98% chance this trade ultimately means nothing, right? But don't twist things and contort yourself into some sort of narrative that's like, well, no, ultimately this could be a good thing. It's like, no, it can't. There is no circumstance under which this is a good
reason.
thing.
Any
No,
reason.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about what I've seen from others.
Reason,
There are
like
others
regular
who
reasoning
I've
doesn't
seen...
say to make this. Like, there is no regular reasoning. Like, you can say, oh, well, on the face, it's a bad thing. Well, the Royals see it's a bad thing on the face, right? They know giving up 6 years of control of a guy for half a year of a guy who's not even a league average hitter. They know that's bad.
Yeah, they have to know that that's bad. There's just no thing about it. But here's the thing. We don't have to do that practice. We don't have to do a practice of, like, and I'm not talking about you, Mike. I'm talking about everybody I'm seeing online who must feel like they have to contort themselves in some sort of weird way, or put up a 16 bank shot to somehow convince us, or somehow excuse what is ultimately a nonsensical decision by the Royals. It's okay if just sometimes they make nonsensical decisions. That will happen at times, right? Like, going to happen. That's okay. Giving him $4 million the first time around was probably a nonsensical decision, honestly. And yet they did it, right? Like, you don't have to contort yourselves into, like, oh, let me come up with some elaborate explanation that actually explains why it's actually a good thing they got Adam Frazier. No, okay? This was a nonsensical decision that made no sense. Maybe some decision that they make in the next 3 or 4 months or whatever will make it make more sense. That's true. That could happen. That sometimes happens. But you can't see this with all the evidence we have now and say anything other than this trade makes no sense, right? Like, anything other than that, and you're reaching beyond reason. You are going into irrationality and non-reason, right? Like, which, makes sense. Mike, we're going to talk about another thing, and I love your response to this, because I was actually thinking the exact same thing when I saw it on the transaction wire. The Royals placed Mark Canha on the 10-day injured list with left elbow epicondylitis. I don't know how to pronounce that, Mike. Do you know that word?
Epicondylitis. You did a good job.
Yeah. I did it. Yay, epicondylitis.
Yeah.
Mike, what are your thoughts on losing Mark Canha to the 10-day injured list?
My thoughts are, you never say his name correctly, and I still find that hilarious. It's just Canha, Mark. It's Mark Canha. All right.
I'm sorry. You'll forgive me, given that I don't hear it pronounced very often.
Yeah, sure. And that's what I wrote here was, I forgot he was on the team. I forgot Mark Canha played for us because he never gets to play. So, yeah, sucks, I guess. He'll be back, I would assume. He's not even the kind of piece that I think a team trades for, so I don't necessarily know that you trade him or anything. He's the kind of
Royals might trade for him. They just traded for the infield version of him like 2 days ago. They just gave up Cam Devaney for the infield version of him.
But if they already have him, they can't trade for him, Mark.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But it was some team,
So no team's going to trade for him because the Royals already have him. I think he's probably just on the team and he'll end up filling a spot. We'll see him play more if they end up doing the smart thing and dealing guys the way that they absolutely need to.
Yeah, we'll see on that one. I was going to say the exact same thing, that I kind of forgot that he was on the team. And, it is what it is at this point. I don't think anybody would take him in trade. If they were looking to free up a 40-man spot, actually getting him off the 40-man would make a ton of sense to me in some ways. I mean, you have John Rave, you have Nick Lofton. They're playing the outfield for you right now. Jack Caglianone's playing the outfield for you right now. They have, now Adam Frazier, he can also play the outfield for you. There's just a lot of options in the outfield. They're playing Michael Massey in the outfield down in Northwest Arkansas for his first rehab start. They're going to have outfield options. I don't know that Mark Canha just absolutely must remain on the 40-man roster. We'll see. Ultimately, it's not going to matter that much because at the end of this season, it's over for him anyway. So, a little bit more consequential in the injury department, the Royals placed Michael Lorenzen on the 15-day IL with a left oblique strain. Mike, this is a little more consequential than the Canha trade or the Canha injury. What are your thoughts on losing Lorenzen?
This one complicates things significantly for the Royals. He's a piece that you probably would have looked to trade around the trade deadline, assuming that that's something that they're going to want to do. And if not, he was a solid part of your rotation. Now he hits the spells where he doesn't do great, where he walks too many guys, things like that. But Lorenzen has been nothing if not valuable for what you've paid for him these last 2 years. So it hurts, it complicates things. But if you end up getting him back to finish out the season, I don't think you're mad about it or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
oblique strain tough though, and it's on his pull down side. It's his left oblique. That's tough.
Which apparently he hurt himself by being sick. And like, sometimes your body contorts itself in certain ways when you're sick, either
Like
sneezing
by throwing up
or throwing up. I think they were sort of heavily implying that he was throwing up and actually hurt himself. And so, hey, it happens. I understand. I'm a 39-year-old man. I get hurt getting out of bed in the morning, come on. And so, but yeah, it's weird because any issue that the rotation has with injury both makes it more important that they trade people because it makes it more likely that they're not going to make the playoffs, but also makes it harder to trade those people. So Lorenzen's in that position. It's like you can't trade him. It makes it hard to trade him, but also him going down means you're less likely to make the playoffs. So you should trade him, right? Like, and so, obviously he's a really good trade piece for them because after this year, he's got a mutual option for $12 million for next year, which actually makes him a little bit more valuable in trade because there's a non-zero chance that both sides would take that option, given how well he's done this year. But it's one of those things that's like, oh, that's rough. They're going to have a tough time. They're making it sound like it's not super duper serious, and he might just miss 1 or 2 starts and maybe could get back to make 1 start before the trade deadline. I think if they can convince other teams that he'll be healthy by the trade deadline, maybe they can get a trade done for Michael Lorenzen. On the field, the Royals dropped the opening series post All-Star break last week to the Miami Marlins. They went 1-2, which brings their overall record to 48-52. They lost a heartbreaker in Game 1 after scoring 7 runs in that game. Offense showed up for this series. Carlos Estevez, or as our good friend Eric Goxer likes to call him, Charlie Sheen, blew a 2-run lead in extra innings to cost them. Game 2 was a classic 2025 Royals as they were held to just 1 run despite facing a pitcher with an ERA of over 5. They rallied in Game 3 and salvaged 1 win from the series with Bubic giving 5 scoreless and the offense again scoring 7 runs today. Mike, your thoughts on what I'm sure wasn't the series the Royals wanted coming out of the break?
Here's my thoughts, and I put this in the in Mike's Drop episode this past week. That isn't a series that a team can lose if they're fighting for a playoff spot. It's just not. Miami Marlins are not exceptional at anything. Their starting pitching is downright awful and hurt.
And they faced 2 atrocious starters in this series. Very bad.
And the one they hit the best was probably the best starter. Honestly, because Alcantara has been worse than Quantrill. Alcantara's got 18 starts this year. He has an ERA over 7. It's just not a good team. The best part of that team is their bullpen, and they came out and the Royals just could not put them away when they needed to, and that was really hard to watch. I cannot believe that a team would lose this series to this team, this caliber of team, and still think that they're going to make a march to the playoffs. Especially with the situation that their pitch rotation is in with the injuries and stuff. It's hard to watch this series and go, that's a playoff team. And if you can even lie to yourself and convince yourself that you can't convince yourself that they're contending for a pennant or a World Series. That's insane.
It is a little bit insane. I heard people positing scenarios during the break for getting back in the playoff race. Somebody, I forget who, released like a strength of schedule list that showed that the Royals were had one of the easiest schedules for the remainder of the season. And that got people's hopes up in some ways, I think. And people started positing scenarios for getting back into the playoff race. What was interesting is they all started with either a win of the Marlins series or many of them a sweep of the Marlins series. So the idea was we're going to sweep the Marlins and then we'll go to Chicago. Maybe we only take one of those. It's like, we just lost the Marlins series. What are you talking about? Where in your brain are you oh yeah, this will work? You're right. It makes no sense to me, in part because, and I think one of the fears is really that the Dayton Moore era was just filled with year after year after year of absolute delusional thinking by the front office, unwilling to see reality, unwilling to like understand the landscape and execute on the reality of the landscape. I understand that this team is better than a lot of the teams that Moore was dealing with, but you cannot look at this landscape. You cannot watch them play against teams like the Marlins and think, yeah, this makes some sense. This is going to work. Let's make a go for it, right? And with that in mind, I have to bring this up. And Mike, I added this question last second, so you won't have too much familiarity with it. But we have to talk about the fact that it seems like that is the Royals' disposition. Today or recently, the MLB.com put out one of the articles that they do where they sort of have every beat writer write on one particular subject. And the subject was essentially, what is your team's disposition towards the trade deadline right now? Ann Rogers, the Royals beat writer, had this to say about the Royals, and I'm quoting directly here. The Royals want to be buyers and don't expect them to tear it all down and be full sellers. Ownership and the front office will still believe in the 2025 squad, and they fully intend to contend in 2026. That means building around the core pieces they currently have with hopes of finding pieces that can complement and help them this year and beyond. The Royals will be searching for ways to upgrade their major's worst outfield. Whether they find someone who fits and a willing trade partner remains to be seen. Mike, what are your thoughts on that disposition toward the trade deadline?
Well, if you throw out the first sentence, the Royals want to be buyers, I guess that's the kind of language I would say that really hedges. I didn't read it.
I want a lot of stuff. I want Kate Upton to show up to my door with a duffel bag full of cash, as I've said many times. I want lots of stuff. It's not going to happen.
But here's the deal. I feel like that's very hedgy language. To me, that's very like, we're going to still be trading the Seth Lugos. The guys who are here only through the end of this year and possibly even longer, they're going to, I think, look to move those guys. Like, to me, all that means is we're not trading Bobby Witt Jr., we're not trading Maikel Garcia, we're not trading Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, Jack Caglione. To me, I think that means that there's still a lot of guys out there that can be moved and will be moved, but that the Royals will be looking for guys who are in a high AAA or have already started their Major League Baseball time or something like that. The problem there is you have basically one trade chip that can get that back, Seth Lugo. Yep. And even then, teams are going to be very hesitant to give those things up because they just don't give up talent that's ready to be in Major League Baseball anymore. That's very difficult to find. And so
Lorenzen and maybe like a reliever could maybe like bring back some. It's not going to be like top 100 talent of that sort, but it could fetch you decent AAA, level talent.
Yeah, and that would be like Lorenzen and an Estevez.
I think you could get it from like Lorenzen and a Schreiber.
Maybe I could see Schreiber. He doesn't offer a lot of top end stuff, but he pitches all the time. So yeah, to me that doesn't sound like, hey, we're definitely buying. We're going for it. I cannot expect the Royals to do that. Although, what does the Adam Frazier deal tell you?
Yeah,
who knows?
Who knows? I'll say this. That would be great. I hope you're right. I hope that this is like hedgy language and that the we want to be buyers is kind of is for the players more than anything, right? Like, but the thing that I'm afraid of is half in, half out. Like, we're not choosing a side. We're half in, we're half out. And to me, that's like the worst disposition you can take toward the trade deadline in some ways. It's like, I'm not saying you have to sell every piece of your team. That would be ridiculous. But you have some players who have some peak value right now. John Schreiber has peak value right now. Now's a good time to move him. He's a reliever. They're volatile. Now's a good time to move him, even though you have, I think, one more year of control beyond this one. Same with Taylor Clark, reliever. Good time to move him. Daniel Lynch, reliever. Good time to move him. Estevez has more than next year available, but it's a decent time to move him if you get a good package. There are guys, Jonathan India. I think we've seen all we need to know about what he is in Major League Baseball at this point. I say get all you can for him, even though you have one more year of control. Like, I think you can easily replace some of these guys as value. And as a result, it makes more sense to move them than it does to hang on to them, if that makes sense. Now,
the big deal is Lugo. Like, you cannot make an argument for keeping
Seth Lugo.
No
argument. There's no argument for that. Like, there's no argument for keeping Seth Lugo. I don't want to hear anyone trying to make it because it's just gonna piss me off. Do not make an argument to try and keep Seth Lugo because it makes no sense. Okay? None. Mike, let's get on to other elements of the week. Who was your strong performer for last week?
Oh, I took the layup. Only 3 games. Salvador Perez went 5 for 10, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 2 RBI, a walk, and no strikeouts. He's on a heater, baby. The captain's on a heater. One of them classic Salvador Perez heaters. But he was so bad. I checked this. He was so bad in the first part of the year that he's still only to a 95 weighted runs created plus. So, but I expect him to pass that as he continues this heater for a little bit. Just absolutely pounding the ball to left field right now. And it's a beautiful thing to see. Hopefully Salvador Perez keeps doing that. I keep thinking, what is the dynamic next year if Carter Jensen, in May or June is pounding on the door of Major League Baseball? Is it, hey, Salvador Perez, how do you like this DH spot permanently? Or pretty permanently. But yeah, if he can stay kind of consistent for this second half, I expect him to be back up to that maybe that 110 weighted runs created plus by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's really plausible. I don't think we're seeing anything that indicates an enormous age decline for him offensively. I think he's struggling a little bit behind the plate because of some age related things, and that's, hey, it's fine. You're 35, 36 years old, Salvador Perez. You've been catching for a long time. Okay, so but yeah, I was thinking about that actually right before we started recording. Like, what does a lineup look like where you have to fit Carter Jensen in? Because I think they're only bringing up Carter Jensen if he's going to be the everyday starter behind the plate. Because I don't think they want to interrupt the progression he's got going defensively as a catcher, his progression offensively, by playing him only 3 times a week or something like that. I think they want him playing every day, and I think they want him playing every day behind the plate because that's what he's ultimately going to do when Perez is done playing all together. And so in my mind, it looks a little something like Perez is basically your everyday DH, which is weird because I know they want the flexibility of having a more flexible DH situation. But remember that Perez can play first base. Perez can still catch probably next year. If you're like, hey, we're going to have you catch 20 to 30% of the games instead of 70% of the games, right? Like, and so it'd become like kind of a split between Jensen, Salvi, and Freddie Fermin, where most of the time Jensen is your everyday catcher kind of thing, right? Like they'll have to get creative with it, and it will limit the opportunities to get Vinny and Jack Caglione into that DH spot, and definitely limit the opportunities to get other guys in the DH spot. But I think ultimately that's how it works out next year, probably, if Jensen is really tearing the cover off the ball. Yeah, short week, but I still went with a hitter as a strong performer as well. I had to pick John Rave because I'm not sure that John Rave ever gets another opportunity to be our strong performer, and he really did some cool stuff, and I'm happy for him. And he just
that was a hell of a game.
Hell of a game. He's looked great since coming back from the All-Star break. He went 2 for 6 in the series, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 1 walk, no strikeouts. And it came out, and he was very sort of upfront that he spent his All-Star break down in Miami working with people from Driveline to help him really improve his swing decisions, right? Like he's just trying to make it so that he's swinging at pitches he can do damage on. And if you look at his metrics, it's not a bat speed issue. It's not a swing and miss issue. It's not a chase issue. It's really just a quality of contact issue right now. And I literally mean he's not squaring the ball up enough. He's not getting it, but that wasn't the case. So it looked like the work that he did in Miami over the All-Star break has been paying off, and hopefully it continues to pay off for him. I want nothing but good things for John Rave. I want nothing but good things for all the Royals players. And so hopefully he shows over the next couple of months, 3 months, that he can remain a fourth outfield option for them. Mike, some people struggled in this series coming back. Who was your weak performer last week?
I had to go with Maikel Garcia. I'm not necessarily worried about Maikel Garcia, but the production has dipped a little bit recently. He started to slow down. 2 for 13, 0 extra base hits, 0 walks, 2 strikeouts. The at-bats, it seems like he's maybe now feeling that he's not doing so well, and he's pressing a little bit more aggressive than what we saw. So I think he probably resets and gets back to where he was. I'm not super worried about him yet, but the OPS has dipped under 800 now. We need Maikel Garcia to be the Maikel Garcia that he was to start the year.
Yeah, he's a player who has faded down the stretch in years past as well. So it might be more important to start getting him more days off in the second half to keep him fresh and things like that. He's not a big guy. He's not a muscly guy. He might just need some, and he plays a lot of baseball, and so you might just need to get him some more days off. That might help. For my week performer, I went with Jonathan India, who we've spoken about earlier. He went 1 for 12 this week with 1 double, 2 RBIs, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. What happened to the Jonathan India who gets on base, who like walks and gets on base? His walk rate is way down this
He
year.
became a Royal.
Yeah, apparently that's what it was. He became a Royal,
Gotta
and
be
boom,
aggressive.
I no longer take walks. And so, yeah, it's been rough for him this last week. We also saw some really bad defense from him in today's game. In the 9th inning, he booted a ball that kept the inning alive, allowed the Mariners to score 4 runs ultimately and get back in the game a little bit. The Royals still ended up winning 7-4, but a guy who really struggled at the plate this last week. He's taken a lot of wounds. He's been stepped on a number of times, hit by a number of things. So he might be feeling it physically, but he's got to get back to getting on base. Mike, in a week that saw the Royals lose an important series, what's your theme for last week?
Oh, I went to one of the greatest movies about being an imposter of all time. Catch Me If You Can. Christopher Walken's fantastic line where he asks his son, Frank Jr., he says, "Why do the Yankees always win, Frank?" "Because the other teams can't stop staring at those damn pinstripes." Okay. And if you've ever seen the movie, this line is actually used twice, and both times the person listening to it says because they have Mickey Mantle. And that's the real answer. The real answer is the Yankees win because they have Mickey Mantle. But he's telling him it's the con. It's the fact that the people, it's the name Yankees that's beating people. And the whole movie is about a guy being an imposter. If you've never seen it, it's based on a true story. But that's what this team feels like to me. Like they're an imposter. Like they don't wear the pinstripes that are going to scare people into losing against them. They think they're the Yankees. If the front office thinks they're the Yankees, we're going to be in trouble because we are not in a place to win a playoff run. We're not. We need to act like we are what we are, which is a team this year who isn't going to make the playoffs. And so don't imposter yourself into thinking that you are going to compete this year because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're a team that's on pace for like 78 wins this year. And so
have you seen their win-loss, Pythagoras, or their run differential?
That's what they look like. Oh, their run differential is horrible.
It's like minus 30, I think, the last time I saw it.
They're terrible, yeah. And so, yeah, that's what I always wondered too. Like people making the argument that they should like go for it or something. I'm like, have you seen their run differential? It's awful. Yeah, anyway. I'm going with another similar sort of theme actually this week, except it comes from the great Shakespeare, or at least that's who it's attributed to. It probably didn't actually come from him, but you've all heard it. It's a proverb, really. Discretion is the better part of valor. That's from Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, maybe. And so you've heard that saying, discretion is the better part of valor. If you don't know what it means, it really just means that, like, normally people use it to say, the notion that, like, I'd rather live and be thought a coward than die and be thought a hero, that sort of thing, But in this sense, it just means, like, hey, discretion at this point is just keep your powder dry, just wait. You don't have to like gung-ho, go for it. Yeah, be aggressive, all that sort of crap. Just wait, show some discretion. And then next year, you'll put yourself in a lot better position to actually be successful when you have the talent. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy, who are happy to announce that they now offer strength and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to gain an edge on the football field, basketball court, or baseball field.
Maybe the key to being a better athlete is being a better athlete.
Yeah. And of course, All in Physical Therapy still offers the best in recovery from total joint surgeries and sports injuries with offices in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. They'll help you take care of your recently replaced hips, knees, shoulders, elbows, you name it.
Maybe someday we won't train to get better. We'll just replace the weak parts of our body with stronger ones. Like, I'm going to be able to throw 105 because I got this new shoulder.
Yeah, that'd be wild. If you're interested in reaching the peak of your athletic performance or getting back to 100% from an injury, check out All in Physical Therapy at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-PT.com. Or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. So you know our stance on what the Royals should be doing at the trade deadline. If you're unfamiliar, go listen to our previous episodes. There's plenty in there about who they should trade, what they should target, all of that sort of stuff. But what about beyond that? What about after the trade deadline? If the Royals are truly out of contention, which mathematically they aren't, but realistically they are, what should they be doing for the rest of the season? That's the question we're going to focus on in today's Spotlight segment. Mike, in your estimation, what can the Royals hope to accomplish with the remainder of this season?
Well, I think I did like a little rundown of this in the midweek episode, but the biggest accomplishment should be to get Jack Caglione comfortable facing major league pitching. If you want to like zoom out and say we need to get a better understanding of who will be a participant in this lineup next year and who will not be, you could do that. And that could include not just what you have in Major League Baseball right now, but who you look to trade for, who's in the minors, that sort of thing. But for me, as far as if you're kind of trying to pinpoint something, Jack Caglione needs to be able to contribute to this lineup in 2026, period.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you are trading for AAA talent and some of those guys are meant to help your outfield problem or whatever, they need to be in that category too. They need to be in that category of guys. You need to figure out how you can help them, how you can help them adjust to Major League Baseball, how you can say like, hey, what do we have here in this next 3 months? I think you got to loop John Rave and Nick Lofton into that too, because as much as they've done, I don't think it's settled that they can even be bench pieces for the Royals because they haven't really contributed to that level yet, right? And so I want to see them give those guys a chance over the course of the next 3 months. Make sure you help Jack refine his approach to the plate. If you go out and get Kevin Alcantara from the Cubs or Owen Casey from the Cubs or whoever, they got to get into your lineup in Major League Baseball too, and they got to start seeing playing time and having you assist them in developing whatever they need to develop. Because when you hit the ground in 2026, you got to know what your lineup's going to look like. You got to know who's going to help you. All the question marks that exist now need to basically be answered in the way that they weren't, frankly, coming into 2025. Mike, who are the players that you think need to have particularly good second halves in order to feel better about this team going into next year?
Well, I mentioned Jack. He's number one. Noah Cameron, need to continue seeing what he's seeing. One that I think is a little underrated, Lucas Ursig. We need to see some more consistency from Lucas Ursig than what we've seen. He's definitely going to be a big part of the back end of the bullpen no matter what next year. So definitely want to see him have a good second half. Michael Garcia, I want to see the slide stop and to see him get back to where he was. If Vinny can just keep doing what he's doing. The big thing for me, I put a bunch of guys on here. Chris Bubich, keep showing what you've been showing, but they need to work on limiting the innings because you're not making a playoff push. He threw 30 innings last year or whatever. You need to make sure we don't
60 if you count his rehab outings.
60 if you count his rehab outings. We don't want to happen to him what happened to Cole Reagans this year. Limit those innings as much as you can. 5 innings, get him out. Add a 6th starter, whatever it is. And then Carter Jensen in AAA. What are we doing with him to ensure that next year he's going to be able to contribute to this offense?
Yeah, and actually, I heard somebody posit an interesting idea to just shut Bubich down at some point this year, right? Like if you're not in contention,
wouldn't hate it.
Just shut him down. Like his long-term health and well-being far more important than the 2% chance you have to make the playoffs. And so.
And what do you have? You have him for one more year after this year, is that right?
They have him for one more year after this, and they have the chance to trade him this offseason if they feel good about their pitching depth. They have a chance to move him this offseason, get a big haul for him because the team will have, whatever team they trade him to will have an entire year of Chris Bubich, which is really valuable on the trade market. So you want to make sure you protect him to whatever degree you can. We saw him go out today. His velocity was down across the board, and so they pulled him after 5 and only 66 pitches, but they got to do something to ensure he's good to go. I'd also like to see, I'd like to see a good second half from Nick Lofton. I think he's right on the precipice of being a contributor, good enough to prove that he's a utility piece at the very least for the next 3 months. I think that would help to some degree. I think I would like to see the same from all of those guys. Big second half from Lucas Ursig. I wonder how much health is playing into the fact that he's had a little bit of a dip. Remember, he got hurt there for a while, came back, and hasn't really been the same since then. This is why relievers are so volatile. But yeah, a good second half from him will help a bunch in terms of making us feel better about what the bullpen could be next year. So yeah, those few, I'm going to agree with all the ones that you said as well. But Nick Lofton, in addition to that, and would be great for me. Mike, we've seen some Royals teams turn things on a little bit in the second half. I think back to the 2023 team, which had a pretty good September to sort of springboard them into 2024. Is that something you think this team could do?
I don't think wins and losses is really the best way to determine whether this team has a good second half, if that makes sense. I'm kind of counting them out of the playoffs because, like I've mentioned before, if they even make the playoffs, they're not going to make a deep run or anything. So I think they're going to struggle a little bit more win-loss record-wise than we think, because I think they will have sent Lugo away, and the pitching staff has struggled with the injuries. I think that you may lose 2 or 3 relievers as well. And so I think their pitching staff, the thing that has been the only thing keeping them winning somewhat consistently, is going to get worse. I think their lineup will stay about where it's been in July. I expect Vinny to keep doing what he's been doing. I expect Salvador Perez to be better than what he was in May and June, April, May, and June, really. And I expect Jack to take small steps forward going. So I think you will have a little bit better offensive production, but I do think that pitching production is going to come down. So I don't see like a big leap in wins in the second half. I expect them to be 500 or below in the second half.
Yeah, even
against a weak schedule.
Yeah, even if they don't do a major sell-off, the injuries to the pitching staff are really taking a toll, right? And we're seeing some regression in some ways from guys too. Carlos Estevez, who was kind of walking the edge of effective and not effective there for the first few months, has started to look a little bit more susceptible. Lucas Ursig, after the injury, has been much more susceptible to giving up runs. And so the bullpen looks a little weaker now. The rotation, Reagan's is down until, we hope a couple 2 or 3 weeks from now, maybe. But,
Hunter
Lorenzen
Harvey
is
did
down
start
right
his
now.
rehab assignment.
Right,
So
but we don't know what he'll be, right? And so there's just a lot of unknown with the pitching staff. I think the offense will be better in the second half, but ultimately I don't know that weakness and injury elsewhere won't keep them from making any sort of like surge or push or anything like that.
And let's be honest, the ceiling of this offense is not very high.
It's not. Like even when this offense is hot, it doesn't look like the Cubs offense. It doesn't look like the Dodgers offense. It looks like, hey, they're about as good as they were last year offensively, right? Like, which was pretty good, but not great in any estimation, right? And so, yeah, when this offense is super hot, they can be slightly above average. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Do you have the same fantasy we do, retiring to a land of eternal summer? If so, you need to call Eric Oxer of West USA Realty pronto. He can help you transition to a lovely home in the Phoenix area and a life of fun in the sun.
Get yourself some of those arm floaty things, okay? No one ever looked ridiculous in those. Safety is sexy, and I have a t-shirt that proves it.
That would make a great t-shirt. Eric was one of the top real estate agents in the Phoenix area to end 2024 because he gives all of his clients a personal experience focused entirely on their needs. With Eric Oxer of West USA Realty, it's not about him. It's about you. He's there to listen to you, work for you, and guide you through the ins and outs of buying and selling in the Phoenix area.
As capitalism reminds us, if you're not buying, you're selling. And sometimes you're just living, I guess.
Find Eric Oxer of West USA Realty online at ericoxer.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. If you're at all interested in what a life in the Phoenix area might hold, let him make the experience all about you. The Royals head to Chicago to start the week with a 3-game series at the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Then they get a day off before coming home for a 3-gamer against division rival Cleveland Guardians. Mike, tell us about those Cubbies.
Love me some Wrigley Field. Love me some Wrigleyville. If you've never been up there to see a game, I highly recommend it. The Chicago Cubs are a good baseball team. They're 59-40, first in the NL Central.
Looks like in that first game in Major League Baseball.
Oh, tied for the best record in baseball. With that pitching staff, that's pretty remarkable. In that first game, it's going to be Noah Cameron versus Ryan Brazier. Okay, Ryan Brazier is a reliever. 37-year-old righty out of Weatherford College. 1.04 ERA, a .92 whip. He's got 18 appearances this year, but no starts. So this is a bullpen game for them. He's going to be a 4-seamer at 93-94, a slider, a sinker, and a cutter. Basically, he's in there to get Jonathan India and Bobby Witt Jr. out. He kills against righties with sliders away and fastballs up. And then we will see who they attempt to go with throughout the rest of that. In game 2, we've got no announced starter for the Royals. That is the Michael Lorenzen spot. I thought it might be Hoffman, but they pitched him today. So I don't think it's going to be Hoffman. So we'll see what they do. They've got Michael Fulmer down there in AAA, don't they?
They have Rich Hill down there in AAA, who started yesterday but only threw about 35 pitches and then was pulled from the game with no injury. And so there's a chance that they bring up Rich Hill, have him start this game, and then go back down. But there's also a chance that they do a bullpen game. It sort of depends.
Yeah. Well, I thought for some reason, I know we signed Michael Fulmer. We signed Dallas Keuchel. They're both in AAA. Yeah. I assumed at some point one of those old guys would be coming up to start a game.
One of the old guys might make it up to the start of game.
So we don't know in game 2, but they'll be going against Matthew Boyd, the 34-year-old lefty out of Oregon State with a 2.34 ERA and a 1.03 whip, having a great year. Four-seam fastball at 93 to 94, a changeup, a slider, a curveball, and a sinker. He does a great job of limiting walks. He's in the 91st percentile in walk percentage. Very good stuff, very good command, just a very solid pitcher at 34 years old for Matthew Boyd. In that third game, the Royals are scheduled to start Seth Lugo versus we don't know yet for the Cubs. Wouldn't it be wild if that were flipped?
That's what I was thinking. Like, what if they make this trade in the next couple of days and it's Lugo against the Royals? And all he's got to do is walk
against
around.
The Royals, yeah, that'd be wild. So, yeah, the Cubs are definitely one of the teams that people have speculated could be looking for Seth Lugo in a trade because their pitching depth is pretty bad. And even when they're healthy, they're missing probably a piece or two. So we will see.
Yes, we will. How do they win then? They score a freak ton of runs. And so watch out.
Yeah, Pete Crow Armstrong, pretty good player.
He's real good. They got a whole bunch of real good players offensively. After that, they're going to come home and they're going to face the Cleveland Guardians, another team that has really struggled lately from the AL Central. They are 48 and 50, second in the AL Central. That's right. Only one team with a winning record in the AL Central right now, and that's the Tigers. It's been a real slide for the Royals, Twins, and Guardians ever since the start of the season. Offensively, that's a big part of their problem. They have an 85 weighted runs created plus as a team, which puts them 26th in Major League Baseball. It's basically the story from the last 5 years for them, which is Jose Ramirez and then a bunch of guys who are meh, Jose Ramirez has a 142 weighted runs created plus. He's doing great. Stephen Kwan has a 109, so he's cooled off significantly since the first month of the season, but still performing above average. Kyle Manzardo has a 100 weighted runs created plus. That's the only 3 hitters they have who are league average or above. Everyone else is below average, many by quite a bit. So offensively, they've struggled. Pitching-wise, also not great. They have a 3.98 ERA as a team, which is 18th in Major League Baseball. They're getting a good season from Gavin Williams, which I'm sure they're happy to see. He was a big-time prospect for them. They were getting a good year from Ben Lively at one point, 3.22 ERA, but he only made 9 starts and he's currently on the 60-day IL. The rest have been pretty mid for their starters. Their starters have not been great. Tanner Bibby, Bibee, who is normally very good for them, has an ERA in the 4.2-ish area. They're just struggling with their starting pitching. Their bullpen, though, has still been very good. So hopefully the Royals can score off of some of their starters and not have to face their bullpen while trailing.
There have been talks that they will at least listen to some of those bullpen pieces, as in trading them. That came out, I think, today or yesterday.
It's wild to me. There are so many teams in better position than the Royals, like the Diamondbacks, the Guardians, etc., who I'm only hearing about them selling. Like, that's all they're going to do because they're, realistic. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just a Bit Outside segment where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, it's been a couple weeks. I'm sure you've had a lot going on in your life. What's something that's been in your mind for the last couple weeks?
We're potty training somebody. So that's the only thing that has consumed me for the last couple weeks. But and one
Who
thing
is it?
We do,
is it Maze? Is it your wife? Is it Morgan?
It's my wife and my 8-year-old dog. We're potty training. It's not my child. So when you potty training a toddler, you have to kind of stay close to home base. So I've been watching a show that is right in my wheelhouse. It's a sitcom. I'm a sitcom connoisseur. This is not going to wow you. It's not going to revolutionize the genre. Okay.
I'm watching a sitcom that's not funny.
It's funny though. It is funny. That's the thing. It's got funny parts. It's got some solid writing. Joel McHale of Community fame plays the exact same character, just in a different setting.
He plays Joel McHale.
He pretty much plays Joel McHale. It doesn't have as good of a supporting cast as that one did, although there's some really funny people in there. But it's one of those things for me. A lot of times when I'm looking for a sitcom to watch, especially because I got 1,000 other things going on. I got a 3-year-old in my face that wants to play or needs to use the bathroom or whatever. I need a sitcom that I want to laugh at, but when I need to ignore it, I don't feel bad. Like I need to go back and watch it or anything. It's one of those. It's a solid thing. It's right in the middle. It's not going to disappoint you, but you're not pissed off if you miss something. You just move on. I equate it to like when I think of sitcoms in the Pantheon, think of like The Good Place. The Good Place is a phenomenal sitcom that is unlike any other, and it changed kind of a lot of different things. It was brilliantly done. This isn't that. Okay, this isn't even Community. Okay, Community was also similar because you had Donald Glover and Daniel Pudi, and it was also very creative at times. This isn't what that is. Animal Control is the name of the show. It's on Fox. I watch it on Hulu. It's just something you can turn on and ignore if you're looking for that. And then when you look up, you'll get a couple laughs and you can try something else. So if you're looking for one of them shows, try Animal Control on Hulu.
I believe in the industry, they're calling this a second screen experience, right? Which is like, because a lot of people watch a television show, but are also on their phone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So the television show is like their second screen. And so there are a lot of content makers. So I mean, like television and film producers who are hearing from streaming services that their show or their movie needs to be dumbed down to make it a better second screen experience. Or like, we need more exposition. That is just the characters explaining what's happening so that the audience can catch up because they've been on their phone for the last 10 minutes. You know, that sort of thing. Yeah, no judgment if you love that sort of thing. Sometimes that's great. I'm talking about another piece of media but I'm not really, because I think I've talked about this book before, but I'm really talking about the experience of rereading a book. So I'm rereading a book that I've read probably 4 or 5 times before, but it's been a while since I read it. And I'm having such an amazing experience reading it that I'm like surprised to some degree that I've already read it, if that makes sense. Like, and this to me is how I can tell the writing is so good in this book, because it's still a page turner, even though I know what's going to happen, right? Like it still gets me like glued to the page. It pulls me in. I still see moments where I'm like, oh, that was a really smart decision by the writer to do that thing, right? Like, and rereading it, I'm just like I'm like texting my partner about it and being like talking to her about it, like, oh, this book has done this amazing thing, and it's all this sort of. So, I just want people to sort of think about, like, if you read books, what sort of book in your experience in your life has that effect on you, where you could pick it up for the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th time, and it's still going to be so good that you're going to want to keep reading it all day, every day. Normally I read to go to sleep. I can't do that with this book because I just want to stay up and keep reading, even though it's like the 7th time I've read it, if that makes any sense. And so if you're curious about what the book is, it's called The Name of the Wind. It's an excellent fantasy book. Yeah, wonderful read. But I really more encourage you to just think about what books in your life are like that for you, you know? That's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again next week. For those of you who listen on the podcasting platforms, we'll be back on Thursday or Wednesday for those of you who are Substack subscribers. So make sure you're subscribed to the Royals Weekly Substack to hear an episode coming out from us on Wednesday and every Wednesday. But until next week, we'll be good to each other.
And go Royals.